Acquiring knowledge is never a waste of time. But being out of school is not the end of time either. Who's Neal Kelly? Neal Kelly is a computer engineer, inventor, entrepreneur, and technologist.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
That's my computer. Hold on one second. I've been inventing, innovating ever since I could remember. I've been a computer engineer for over 20 years. Everything from break fix to network engineering. And I'm me. I'm an African American. I'm proud to have African heritage, and I'm here to help replicate my knowledge, to bring my knowledge here to Africa so that it's beneficial. How do I get my ideas? I get my ideas from what I call derivative thinking. I can see ideas where most people don't. Wherever I see a problem, I see an idea. Problems are simply innovations waiting to happen. If, like for instance, my brother, Mr. Ivan, who has been my best friend and border guy and everybody, he has, I used to see him stick his phone in his ear, right? Like most people do. And most people just go about their lives doing that, but me, where I see problems, I see opportunities and solutions. So I worked on a prototype. So that's just an idea, an example of how I get ideas. I look at things and look at problems and try to innovate solutions to those problems. How do I get them to work? Okay, usually what I first do is I first create a design brief. A design brief is basically comprised of four primary things. What the problem is, how I intend to solve it, and what are some of the constraints that I want to have. A constraint could be something like it must be small, it must be affordable. It basically outlines and creates a framework of my target. How do I get it to work? Well, the very first thing after the design brief, I start to research if there's anything out there like it. And if there is there any way I can improve upon the idea or modify it so it fits my needs? After I look at that, then I start creating, just brainstorming to produce a number of different sketches, possibilities, how I'm going to approach the problem and solve it. And finally, once I've decided on one that actually works best for me and best for my possible solution, I start to prototype. I could either start from what's called a low-level prototype, which can be anywhere from a paper sketch to a mid-level prototype where it could be made out of a cardboard box or just something that's a facsimile of what it's supposed to be, up to a high-level prototype, which is an actual functioning device of whatever my idea might be. What challenges? Well, for one, I don't believe in impossibilities. I don't see that as a challenge, but I do see things sometimes that I may run across as being difficult. Sometimes the environment is the challenge. In the United States, where I'm originally from, where I was born, the challenge there is I run across racism because I'm African American, so I have to deal with that. The challenges here is different. The environment's different. Getting the necessary resources I need to be able to make things in a timely fashion. Technically, I don't think there's challenges. I just think they're just delays and sometimes temporary difficulties and setbacks that may delay you from getting to your goal, but it doesn't stop you. Even if you're not in school, school doesn't mean a building with a classroom. School is life. Everywhere you are, you can learn. Everything that you do is a learning moment. From the time that you're born to the time that you die, you're still learning. So what does that mean for learners who want to learn? Whatever you're looking for, go after it. Don't let your own insecurities stop you. Don't let your own feelings of inadequacy stop you. Don't let these questions like, man, I just don't know how to do it, stop you. Because where we all start from is we all start from nothing. And we learn to become something. Just like a baby, when it first walks, it falls all the time. But it perfects and it learns from each mistake until it begins to run fast. Next thing you know, that same baby could be an Olympic star, depending on how much commitment it has. It's the same thing with anything. If you give up, you're giving up on yourself. If you believe you can't do something, you've already failed. Part of it is believing that you have the capacity, even if you don't know how to do it, because that belief will carry you to your goal. Dreamchaser Magazine, right? Just in those words alone, dream chasing means that even though you may not have it, you still have the passion and the energy and the commitment to chase it until you get it. And that's what it's about. Never, for learners who are trying to find an answer to a problem or trying to find a solution, never allow them, my advice to them is never ever give up. Set your goal and chase it down. Prototypes are always important to me. Prototypes are the living expression of my ideas. So they're more than just gadgets that I create. You have to understand the nature of what I'm doing is that I'm creating things from nothing. Technologies that don't exist and bringing them into existence. So to me, prototypes are like my little children. Sometimes they're good children and sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they produce a lot of smoke and shock me. But nevertheless, prototypes are important because they're an expression of my ideas, and they also prove that what seemingly is impossible can actually take place. How important it is to you guys? It's immensely important because, like I said earlier, I design by creating solutions, by solving problems. And they're not my problems. I look at how my inventions, my technology can be beneficial to the rest of the world, particularly Africa. Why Africa? Because my descendants are from Africa. To me, Africa is home. To me, I should be developing this place first than anywhere else. So my designs, my technologies is geared to be able to benefit as many people here in Africa as possible. Innovation is not computer science. And although it does involve computers, innovation is creating, inventing. It deals with learning what creativity is and developing that creativity. And also developing your confidence into creating something. Creativity is about building the confidence in yourself and building the capacity at the same time. The core of innovation is being able to dream ahead of what you're living in, being able to see the future before it even happens. It's almost like innovators today are yesterday's prophets, per se, so to speak. To develop ideas and create things that don't exist requires, you have to be a little bit crazy and a little bit of a genius. When I thought of the helmet here, the one that was doing messages, I was in the house bored to death. And, COVID-19. And I said, I really need to do something or I'm going to go crazy. So I first put the message array inside of a mask. And I said, okay, that doesn't have any practical value, but it looks cool. But now I need to do something practical. So I transferred it to the back of the helmet and put the electronics inside the helmet. Most people said they never thought of it. Some of the things I thought of, people said that they didn't think it would work. I've innovated a variety of different things. One of them is the Wheels project, which unfortunately I can't show you. I think you've seen it, right? And of course he actually wrote on it. But people said that was impossible, that couldn't be done. But it has been done. I've done it, and I'm still developing it to make it a professionally viable product. Well, my students, I guess what I'm teaching them is to think. One of the hardest things it is to do is to convince someone that they're more than what they believe. And that's what I'm trying to show them, that they're more than what they actually thought they were. Because most of the time what holds us back is ourselves. All the self-doubt, And the self-doubt is what we get from other people who may very much love us and don't want to see us waste our time, but it is actually, it hurts us when they say, nah, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't do that. That's impossible. All those things help create a condition in ourselves that hold our full potential back. I got past all of that. I fought past all of that. So now my goal now is to teach my students to get past that themselves, so that whatever they intend to do, whether it's ICT innovation or even having the biggest, coolest chapati stand in Uganda, they'll be able to make it happen because they know that they have the capacity and the willpower to do it. Willpower is what drives us, and it drives innovation, and it drives success. The difference is computer science. Look at the way the schools, not just in Uganda, but around the world, is graduating people. Look at the product it's producing. They are programmers or computer users, right? Software engineers, but they're not innovators. How many programmers exist in the world? But how many Mark Zuckerbergs are there? How many Stephen Jobs are there, right? Well, how many black innovators do we have, right? The question is that the difference between a software engineer and an innovator is like the difference between a puddle of water and the ocean. A software engineer is trained to create a product upon request. I want you to create this for me. But they're not trained to think creatively. They're not trained to think outside the box. Perfect example. Mark Zuckerberg started his Facebook in his dorm, right? Stephen Jobs, he doesn't even know how to program. Did you know that? He doesn't know anything about computers. He is a creative genius, right? He can look at things and see where trends are. And he can say, you, who's the engineer, build it for me. You see the difference? I'll give you an example. Do car mechanics know how to fix cars? Yes, but do they know how to make them? Do they know how to innovate the technology to make them? That's the difference. You see, they know the science of it. They're trained to fix these engines, but there's very few who know how to design them from scratch, their own. That's the difference. That's what I'm teaching. Yes, it has sprinklings of ICT here and sprinklings of electrical engineering here and electronic development there. But altogether, it creates innovation. I'll give you an example. Latimer Lewis was an inventor of the gas mask. He also, if I remember correctly, invented air conditioning. He also invented the refrigerated truck, right? He invented huge amounts of various innovations, right? A black lady invented CCTV. And this is way back when racism was rampant. And one other one that I always bring up is the brother who did open heart surgery. He wasn't even a medical doctor. And medical doctors could not figure out how to invent open heart surgery. They said it was impossible. You cannot operate on a heart while it's alive and beating. He proved them wrong, and he wasn't a medical doctor. He was creative. He looked at problems differently. And I'll give you one last example. Cuba, right? I think we call it Cuba in the United States. They have a vaccine. That country, which is impoverished, has a vaccine for lung cancer, and the United States does not. How did they develop it? When they had very little resources. Creativity. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter what conditions you're in. Doesn't matter if you are poor, if you're living in a slum, in a shack somewhere. It all matters about your creativity, and it all matters about your ability to continue even when you want to give up. That's where innovation comes from. That's what I'm teaching my students. For one, it doesn't matter if you know computers or not. what it is that you have to have the commitment. I take you from zero, and I take you from zero to hero, basically. Essentially, what I do is I start talking about if we start with, let's say, programming, because that's what I started them on, and then we started them on electrical engineering at the same time because they're related. They're very closely related. So what I did with him and both of these guys is we started with some basics. We talked about what software is. We talked about what hardware is, the basics, the very basics. But then we got a little deeper. We talked about binary, right? And we did these increment stages until after we get a certain point. Then I started relating it to how electronics and software interact, right? And how they communicate. And then we started to expand, right? Some of the ways in which I approach it from is it's not just theory, it's actual practicality. Whether it's microcontroller programming, embedded systems, or network engineering, they get practical, hands-on experience. So we start from various stages and we work our way up to more complex stages. Acquiring knowledge is never a waste of time, but being out of school is not the end of time either. Education. First things first. One, never, ever, ever stop. Never, ever, ever quit. Even if you don't have school fees and you are out of school, you pick up a book, you acquire knowledge, you chase your dream, you don't stop. Think of it like this. If somebody was trying to kill you, you would do everything in your power to survive. If someone is trying to stop you from acquiring your education, whether it's a person or something, you do everything in your power to acquire the knowledge you're looking for. Whether it means walking 25 kilometers just to get to a place where you can get access to information, you do it. Whether it means starving yourself to purchase a book for you to get it, for you to get the knowledge, you do it. Because in the end of it all, one thing that can never be taken away is the knowledge that you've acquired. Knowledge is like diamonds that cannot be taken away once given. And the beautiful thing about it is you can give it to people and they also will always have it. You can copy it and give it to people. So what I say to all of you guys that are inventing, specifically in Africa, remember one thing. Technology and civilization started in Africa. It is in your blood. The only thing that you have to remember is that you have to remember that it's there. You have to remember that that's part of your genetics, right? And you have to reclaim it. Don't give up.